Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 10th May 2020. I have a small announcement to make. Law Excellence IAS has started online live general studies classes for 2021. These are the fresh batches. These have started from 7th May 2020. Again, these are offline classes which are given online. Because of lockdown, we are unable to start the offline classes to you. So, for the time being, we are giving you the online classes. And tomorrow, once the lockdown is over, the online classes will be available for the people who can't come offline, and offline classes will be available for the students who want to attend in person. Hope I am clear with this to you. So, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper now. Today being Sunday, we do not have editorials. We have all the articles under the category Targeted News Analysis. The respective page numbers in Hyderabad and Bengaluru edition are given to you. You can go through them. The first article for discussion is Funds and the PM. So this article is going to talk about two funds. One is PM CARES Fund, which is recently launched. The next is PM's National Relief Fund, which was launched during the time of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Now the question is, why do we need another fund to meet this disaster when already there is a fund, that is National Relief Fund? And what are the questions surrounding PM CARES Fund? We are going to see it here. Let us see the highlights of this article. You know that the PM CARES Fund, it was established specifically for COVID-19 donations. It can receive its donations both from individuals and organizations. The contributions which are made to this fund are tax-free, and donations to it are considered as corporate social responsibility funds. The funds are also exempted from Foreign Contributions Regulations Act. It means that any foreign donations are also accepted under PM CARES Fund. Now, let us try to understand PM's National Relief Fund. It was set up in 1948. The major purpose was to accept public contributions for the assistance of refugees who are the victims of partition. Since 1985, it is completely under the control of Prime Minister's office. An officer equivalent to the level of Joint Secretary, he manages that particular fund. And any allocations under this fund are purely discretionary. It means that legislature has no say on the expenditure made by these funds. And these funds are also not subjected to Comptroller and Auditor General's audit. The reason is this fund is not authorized by the legislature. And where we are using this fund, it is used to provide relief to the families of those killed in the natural calamities, victims of major accidents, or riot victims, and also to meet emergency medical expenditure of different kinds of victims like accident victims, etc. So in this case, the PM CARES Fund and PM's NRF, they appear to be one and the same in their purpose. Why wouldn't have conducted or collected donations under PM National Relief Fund itself? Probably one argument goes like this. See, government might have thought to have a special fund to deal with the COVID-19 because of the magnanimity of the problem. But there are certain questions which are seriously raised. One is related to the corporate social responsibility funds, or CSR funds we call it as. Now these CSR funds are not supposed to be spent on government schemes or as donations to the government funds. But under PM CARES Fund, social responsibility funds are accepted and also they are tax exempted. It means that the corporates are getting double benefit, tax exemption, and also they are able to provide for something to the Prime Minister and necessary publicity surrounding it. Second, when an activist filed for the donations received under PM CARES and how it was spent, there is no reply given to him saying that it is unwarranted. And what is the role of CAG? Is CAG is allowed to audit this fund or not? There is no clarity on this. Because of this, it is stated that the PM Cares Fund is outside accountability and there is no clarity of action related to that particular fund. Let us understand few more key points from the backgrounder. So the PM National Relief Fund, it has come into existence in 1948 during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru. So Indian National Congress president was also the part of that particular managing trustees of the fund. During Rajiv Gandhi era, the PM National Relief Fund directly shifted to Prime Minister's office. Since 1985, the decisions regarding the expenditure of the fund are made by Prime Minister's office itself, and the donations made to this are completely tax exempt. And then donations by corporate are also classified as CSR under Companies Act 2013, and it is not audited by the Comptroller and Auditor General. These are the points which we need to understand. Now, with regard to PM Cares Fund, who is going to audit that? Is it coming under the CAG's purview? It is not yet clear. That is what is the major objection raised. The next article for discussion is how can interstate workers to be protected? You know that the COVID-19 has exposed the vulnerable state of the interstate migrant workers in India. Due to developmental challenges, the migration has become a norm in India. There is intrastate migration, which is inter-district migration, and interstate migration, where the workers in the first case move from one district to the other district within the state. And in the second case, which is worse, the workers will move from one state to the other state. In this context, let us try to understand what are the problems faced by them and what is the protection these migrant workers have and how weak that protection is in this article. Let me give you certain examples to explain the plight of migrant workers. In Assam, when Muslims were killed by the Bodos, the Assamese people who are there in all the other states in India, they feared retribution. They took overnight the trains and various transport modalities to rush back to home, fearing the retribution. And second, when these migrant workers comes to the new places for work, they leave their home and they live in very pitiable situations. Today, these migrant workers has to go back home and there is no basic amenities. There is no security of the job for them. Who is supposed to take care of these migrant workers in the midst of this crisis? There is no answer. Is the employer? Or is that the state government where he is employed? Or the state government where he hails from? Or the central government? There is no clear guidelines who has to be responsible for the plight of these workers and who has to provide for the necessary support to these workers. That is what is the situation. In this context, there are certain laws. One is Interstate Migrant Workmen Act 1979, which was enacted to protect these workers. It is supposed to help all the workers who are employed outside their state, and if they are employed in a company or a factory which has 5 or more employees. So the purpose of this act is to protect these particular people. Later, when a new code has come up, that is Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, which has come up last year, this particular law, that is Interstate Migrant Workmen Act, was subsumed under this particular code. You know that there are two codes which have come up. One is Wages Code. The second one is Occupational Safety, Health, Working Conditions Code. Under this second code, Interstate Migrant Workmen Act 1979 was subsumed. So in that scenario, see carefully, contract laborer and migrant workers, these have a common page in this particular code. It means government is not treating the migrant workers separately. They are being kept on par with the contract laborers. That is the problem. So these migrant laborers shall be provided with the stay, shall be provided with the minimum wage, as they are from the other state and they do not resemble the people around. They may face discrimination and also face certain challenges of living in the new area. So providing them for the necessary living conditions also shall be the responsibility of employer. But if employer is not providing for the proper safety, etc., where these have to report? There are no proper solutions, no proper grievance redressals for them. So though there are legal protections, there is no proper grievance redressal and it is ineffectively implemented, which is killing the safety of these workers. That is the essence of this. The next article for discussion, it is Sal forest tortoise habitat stretches over unprotected areas. You know, the Sal forest tortoise, it is critically endangered species. Why it is so critically endangered, we will explore in this particular article. The Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, released a study regarding the status of Sal tortoise. So most of this tortoise, it is located in eastern and northern regions. So most of the habitat of the Sal tortoise, it is outside the protected areas network. So they are not under the protected areas network. Next, in the northeastern India, you know that Joom cultivation is very famous. And then recently we have also witnessed many forest fires. So the Joom cultivation forest fires are also killing the habitat of this particular species. And then our protection is centered around mammals. So our entire protection mechanisms, protection area networks, these are created for mammals. So in this context, the focus has to be back on, again on amphibians and reptiles. So our protective mechanism also has to take care sufficiently about amphibians and reptiles. And these are also being harvested, or else these tortoises are killed for trade in international markets. So there is no proper international collaboration to fight against this particular trade. So it means what we shall do, discouraging Joom cultivation and shifting our protection towards amphibians and reptiles too, and promoting the international collaboration to fight against poaching of this can protect these particular species. The next article for discussion, it is AP's dire finances drive it to seek central help. In the midst of COVID-19, many of the states are facing a huge financial crisis. They are looking for center's help in this scenario, and Andhra Pradesh is not an exception. You know that in the fiscal federalism, certain taxes are being divided between the center and the state. What are the major sources of revenues to the states? They are from GST, from the state's component, and second, you have this particular registration fees, stamp duties, and then registration of vehicles. These are all the sources of revenue for the state. And center also will give certain loans and grants, and also statutory transfers exist from the center. So certain loans are coming from the center, transfers are coming from the center, and the states have their own sources of revenue. Because of COVID-19, all of them have come to a standstill. If you take Andhra Pradesh, the average of revenue of the state has fallen to 2 crore rupees per day. It means it is at the verge of collapse. Added to that, even in the midst of COVID-19, the states have actively resorted to the welfare programs. So certain welfare programs are related to COVID-19 relief itself, which is essential. At the same time, the state governments did not move away from their populistic stance. Because of this, the situation has become much worse. In this context, what the states are asking for, moratorium on the loans which they have to pay. So center might have given them the loans previously. Now they are supposed to make the repayments to it. Impose the moratorium on this. That is the first case. And the second is MSMEs, money has to be paid. So in this case, to support the MSMEs and to restart the economic activity, certain financial support they are requesting for. And under GST, they want the compliance eligibility to be raised to 100 lakh crores. It means the center has to liberally support them for the loss of their GST. That is another demand. And also to increase their borrowing, they are asking government to raise FRBM limits. So once FRBM limits are raised, the open market borrowings they will be able to make, and interest-free loans from the center, interest-free loans. These are all the requirements they are putting towards the center. So in such a case, understand one simple thing. Where does the center have the money? And see the bigger picture here. When 15 days, the problem is many of the state governments fail to pay the salaries. At the 15 days problem, it means the government do not have even the reserves to cover 15 days. It reflects the very vulnerable and in principle or wrongly managed state of finances of the state governments. That's how I will put it as. The next article for discussion is enable longer work hours CII to center. So you know that all the companies are facing huge losses due to lockdown. In this context, how to improve production, how to make industry competitive, these are all the questions before the economy. In this context, what are the proposals made by the CII to center, we will see in this particular article. What the CII is stating. One is the employees who do not comply with the guidelines shall be made liable for action under Employment Standard Order Act and Industrial Disputes Act. So they want employees to immediately join the jobs. And second, as of now, if any extra duty is done by the employee worker, he has to be paid extra money which is more than the regular salary. Now they say that 4 hours of overtime shall be allowed and the payment has to be proportionate to their salary rather than extra allowance. And then to address the shortage of the workforce, so they want certain shelter homes to be prepared for these particular workers by the states. And then layoffs. Extended layoff provision. It means that the employees will not be removed from the job, but they will be kept on the table for a while. So as and when the demand comes up, they will be taken back into the job. So that particular time period to keep the employees on the bench has to be increased. And added to that, various labor codes which are there, which provide for the protection to the workers, have to be relaxed so that the unnecessary disputes can be avoided. This is what they say. And the next is the ease of doing business index under this hire and fire mechanism. All these have to be brought in. So in an essence, what the CII is asking for, relax the existing provisions which are meant to protect the workers so that we can ensure the greater protection and extended hours to these workers, because these are the exceptional circumstances, and to bring back the economy online, economy better, please ensure this. These are the recommendations for them. The next article for discussion, police get a guide to detect fake news. Now, fake news on social media, it is creating panic and also law and order challenges. So in this context, our cyber security divisions are really unable to make or face these fake news. In this context, how to handle them is the question before us. So certain improvement is made. Let us see this. There is an organization called Bureau of Police R&D, Research and Development, which was established in 1970. The major objective of Bureau of Police R&D is to modernize the police forces. It is meant to modernize the police forces. Now, what it is recommending to the police is any kind of social media message which is meant to spread panic, hatred or communal violence by fake news has to be verified with the trusted sources. They have given the trusted sources like PIB and Hindu for fact checking. And they also recommend that the police has to use open domain tools. What are these open domain tools? Like Google reverse imaging search. Using this Google reverse imaging search, we can find what is the real source of the image which is shown over there. So recently, against minorities, certain kinds of fake news which are being spread, saying that they are spreading the COVID-19. And added to that, after Vizag gas leak, certain fake news appeared in the this thing saying Amaravati farmers are cursing the Vizag. These are all meant to raise the hatred and panic and the regional disturbances. In this context, police has to verify the facts with the trusted sources, with image searches, etc. And the source of the information has to be identified, fake news has to be identified and has to be punished. In this context, remember this Bureau of Police Research and Development as an organization. And finally, thank you very much.